In this video, I step outside my comfort zone and race the rookie oval track in iRacing, and all from an older gamer's perspective. Stepping into the oval race scene in iRacing is like suddenly learning to race all over again. And it soon becomes clear that many of the skill sets you've allegedly learnt aren't going to scale or transfer across to the beautiful madness that is oval stock car racing. Jumping into these events with the assumption that it's about sticking your foot on the floor and pushing the muscle power car to the win is essentially correct, but it's an overview that misses out on the subtleties of oval racing. In fact, it didn't take many races, or indeed laps, for me to figure out that oval racing wasn't simply about turning left over and over again. It was a style of racing that encompassed strategy, precision, and most of all, patience. Not something I have an overabundance of. Oval racing simplifies the track layout, sure. You only really have 2 corners, arguably 5 at Charlotte. But in this simplification, it introduces the challenge of maintaining high speeds, optimizing racing lines on those torturous left-hand banking turns, and staying inches away from your competitors and the wall for nerve-wracking extended periods of time. Oval races might seem simpler due to their layout, but the high-speed, close-quarter racing requires a high level of concentration that is on a whole other level to road racing, where even the tiniest error can result in losing massive amounts of ground on leading drivers, or worse still, lead to a multi-car pile-up that will put you out of the race. Tactics to qualify. To get a reasonable race and stay out of those early turn 1 pile-ups, you need a place towards the front of the grid. Placing towards the back or in the middle can work, but often that's where most of the crashes are happening. This works counter to the advice of rookies where you should stay at the back and stay out of trouble. That doesn't really work in ovals. In a best case scenario, getting to the front of the grid, even in the lower splits on the Charlotte track, will need you to achieve a time of around 37 seconds or better. For me personally, I managed to consistently get to the front of the pack by doing the following. Once you come out the pits, you'll get about a half a lap to warm up the tyres. It's not a lot. So take it easy until you see the green flag. Then you need to start focusing on the first bank turn. Here I found it easier to ease off on the throttle, go to about 80%. This avoids a cold tyre spin. Remember, this is your first qualifying lap. If you go off track, the lap won't count. As you come back out of the bank turning, go up to 100% throttle. Then it's flat out, straight down the middle lane, which I'm advised is the sweet spot for qualifying fast. Well, I've no idea why, but apparently that does work. And then in the second turn, I go to 100% throttle. It's going in to give myself just that bit of extra speed so that when I come out of it and head for the final lap, I've got a little bit of extra speed going on. These arguably less adventurous tactics still saw me crossing the line in 37.395, which is probably good enough for around P4 or 5 on the grid in most lower splits. And the most important thing, I had at least 1 good lap in the bag. So for the second lap, the second qualifying lap, I could start to push the envelope a little bit more. On turn 1 of this second qualifying lap, I had left the throttle nailed to the floor and tried to keep the car as close to the blue apron line as I could. It's a bit heart-stopping as the tyres don't feel like they have warmed up all that much, and the car can lose the back end without much warning. But I nursed it through, refusing to lift, and then headed for the mysterious middle lane of righteousness and got my shit together for turn 2. Again, I didn't lift the throttle on this bank turn, and I kept the car as low as possible while at the same time trying not to crap myself as the bumps of this course tried to throw me into a spin. Charlotte is a lumpy track, especially on the entrance to this second bank turn. As I came out of the turn, I headed for this slight bend in the track and I put 1 wheel over the line. Be careful, because more than this will be registered as an off track and the lap time won't count. But I managed to avoid that, and then I headed by the shortest possible route for the finishing line to get a 37.068. This is easily good enough for P3 on the grid, maybe even a P1. If you want to get P1 on every race, you need to practice these tactics until you can get a 36-second lap. This will give you a great start in any split, except possibly the top one. Tactics on green flag. So now I've gridded high-ish, I need to make that count by trying not to lose too many places at the start. You can warm your tyres up a bit during the pace lap. I never really bother, and some people actually crash when they're doing this, but hey, you do you, right? Once the pace car dives off, in possibly the most unrealistic way possible, you then drive towards the line. Make sure you don't cross it before the green flag, otherwise you need to go to the pits and serve a time penalty. With the green flag deployed, the important thing to remember here is an oval race is all about the long game. And if you can stay out of trouble, it quickly becomes a very tactical race. Yes, I know the cars are barreling along at ridiculous speed, but so long as you don't allow your competitors to get too far ahead of you, there is a chance you can catch an overtaking them using drafting, or there is a chance they will crash, or the lead cars will crash into each other, leaving you to take the lead. All sorts of shit goes down during an oval race, so don't panic at the start. Just make sure you keep clear of the lower rated drivers behind you and keep close to the lead cars in front. If you happen to be in front, just focus on keeping your line and listening to your spotter. Perfecting the corners takes time. It's a dance of entering at the right angle, holding the optimal speed and understanding the best straight line, and having to do that while you're fighting the steering wheel, which is bumping about all over the place. But if you get it right, it is really poetry in motion and gives you a wonderful feeling when it just goes right. Misjudge it and you will have a close encounter with a car and a wall and everything else, and then it's back to the drawing board and the pits. Drafting and overtaking. Drafting isn't just tailgating in oval racing. By reducing the drag and strategizing the optimal overtaking moment, you can utilize the slipstream of the car in front to your advantage. Drafting is essentially a blend of strategy and trust. It's not just about following in another car's wake for a speed boost, but about when you want to make your move and how to side draft. And remembering that once you are past a driver, they now can use your draft to their advantage. All of this means that the ovals creates a very fluid race, requiring drivers to stay alert and ready to make a move at virtually any time. How did I do? Well, I would say that oval racing is a love-hate experience for me. I've dipped my toe a few times in the past, but I've always come away with a feeling that oval racing just wasn't for me. Part of the problem is the tracks available at rookie level. While there are 12 different tracks in road racing, even at rookies, oval only has 4 per season, which cycles 3 times through each of these during that season. And of these 4 tracks, only the Charlotte track was one that I found to be a track where I could enjoy the race. The other 3 have, I'm sure, their own charm, but while Charlotte is 1.5 miles in length, the others are 0.75, 0.4 and just 0.39 miles in length. They're much shorter tracks, just like going round in a tiny little circle. I find these smaller tracks are utter mayhem and a crash fest. That just left my safety rating in a small bundle of curled up confusion in the corner of the race results room. These tracks are much better suited, I think, to the Legend car series. I've tried that and that is fun, but for stock cars, these shorter tracks, they're challenging, shall we say. Charlotte, on the other hand, is, if your race is sufficiently aggressive, with an eye to avoiding the inbuilt calamities that are back markers, a place where you can actually farm some safety rating. Mostly. During the week I made this video, racing twice a day, I was able to get to the podium 4 times out of those 9 races, 3 of which were silver placed seconds. I was also able to, mostly by starting as near to the front of the grid as I could, to push my safety rating up high enough to qualify for a D-Class license. This means I can race D-Class stock car races. Once I bought the car and a few tracks. iRacing rewards you by draining your wealth. What did I learn? Apart from the fact that perhaps I'm not quite as good at oval racing as I thought I might be. But to anyone diving into iRacing, and particularly oval racing, I would say that making the transition from road to oval is like learning a new language. The fundamentals of driving remain the same-ish, but the syntax, the nuances, the strategies shift dramatically. However, with patience and practice, mastering both offers a real holistic sim racing experience like nothing else you've experienced in sim racing. And that sounds like hyperbole, but it really was. There was many thrills side-by-side races that I did that had my heart pounding in my chest and my adrenaline rushing in a way that I haven't really ever experienced in road racing. Oval racing is fun. If you're a rookie, you get the car and at least 4 tracks, of which I think 3 are not very much fun. You should maybe try the short tracks and not follow my advice. Perhaps short tracks are just not for me and they work for you, but personally I hated them. But either way, if you try oval racing, believe me, you will enjoy it. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click the like button, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe. Click the little bell icon if you want to be notified of any future videos.